Hello, my name is Crystal Petry, and you are watching another episode of the Crystal Petry Podcast, Season 3. Every room we enter and every stage we step onto tells a story before we ever speak. In this episode, we explore how communication, presence, and confidence shape influence, connection, and credibility. This is a conversation about showing up fully, speaking authentically, and using your voice in a way that actually moves people. Welcome to the podcast, Miss Sherhara Burrell. Did I pronounce your
Yes,
first name correctly? I've been
yes,
practicing.
Sherhara, you got it right.
Shahara. Yes, yes, yes. Practice paid off. Okay, so Miss Shahara, where in the world are you?
Well, currently I am in Dallas, Texas. I am working with a client today, doing some delivering, some speaking, but I hail from Houston, Texas, land of Beyonce.
Beyonce's Houston, Texas.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay, so showing up in the room, it sounds simple, but it really isn't. So, what does that mean to you, showing up in a room with intention? Or
Mm,
just, you know what? I'm going to ask that question next. What does showing up in a room mean? How does that feel?
mhm. I would say that showing up in a room and the way that I always put it too is
Mhm.
not just showing up in the room. Sometimes our challenge is we need to just show up. If you've been consistently showing up, then you
Right.
move to a space of I want to own a room.
Yes.
And that's where I lean into. That's where I anchor. Owning a room. So we can kind of toggle back and forth depending on where your audience is as to what's required to just show up sometimes.
Mhm.
But if you know you've been showing up, then there's this space of owning a room. And owning that room, there's two things that happen. There's showing up and owning it and how you feel, and then which I call your intent. But then there is what you actually do to the room when you own the room, which is then
Mhm.
the impact. So when we talk about owning a room, you want to feel something and you also want the people in the room, in the conversation, to feel it or something as well.
Right.
Because I've heard so many times that I walk, I speak, I show up, I deliver, I have a conversation, and I walk away feeling like, I should have said this. I should have
Yes.
done more. I
Yes.
like I didn't really give it my all, right? But then the people listening to you will say, you did great, right?
Mhm.
So owning a room is just as much as feeling empowered, feeling that ownership for yourself as it's felt for the others in the room as well. So little definition, give us a little baseline.
Little base, little foundation here. So,
Mhm.
how do you own the room? How do you walk into the room with intention and not ego?
So intention is a great word to use because I believe that self reflection leads to powerful self expression. And typically, when we're showing up in these rooms, we're expressing ourselves in so many different ways, whether it's informal or formal, whether you're
Mhm.
on a panel podcast, doing a keynote, speaking at a conference, or whether it's informal, where you're in a team meeting and you're having a Zoom call, or you're at a networking event, or you're even just having, collaborative conversations with your team, right? So when you think about expression, and how well and how comfortable and how confident you feel about expressing yourself in these spaces.
Mhm.
I think it's directly tied to the level of depth that you have in the space of self reflection.
Okay.
And you have to be intentional about that. So when you own a room, it requires first that self reflection. And that typically then leads to you better understanding yourself, you
Mhm.
feeling more aligned, you understanding your worth, you understanding your message, what it is that you even want to put out into the world.
Yes.
And more than anything, I think it leads you to what your convictions are. I believe that conviction, like just this, like I was about to growl, right? Like this,
Go
rah, like I
ahead.
just, like this conviction, this calling, this pull, this drive that
Mhm.
shows up in every single room that you're in. I believe that's what owns it, you know, regardless of whether or not somebody wants to give you a standing ovation or agrees with you.
Mhm.
The feeling of showing up aligned in your purpose, feeling convicted, can be felt, even if folks don't agree with you, even if
Right.
folks don't like you. They always say at the end of the day, real recognize real.
That's
And that
true.
always mean that you agree.
That's true. So, what about the nonverbal cues, the body language, the posture? How does that communicate confidence before we even speak?
You know, I think that body language,
Hmm.
eye contact, posture, the way you sit, the way you carry yourself, it's a byproduct of what you feel about yourself inside
Hmm.
first. Because I could fix your shoulders, I could tell you to sit up, I can tell you to make eye contact, I can tell you to smile. But if it ain't on the inside, if you don't have that conviction, if you
Hmm.
don't have that belief, if you're feeling like you're constantly second guessing yourself, you're
Right.
only performing. Body language only resonates when you're aligned. It because I could be hunched over. I could be looking around and making my message, and you will still feel me with my posture like this
Hmm.
because of what's felt. And that's the conviction. That's the alignment. That is the deep understanding that I feel good about with myself. So if I then say, fix your posture, but you're still insecure about how you might be showing up, you're still second guessing yourself, you're still doubting, you're still operating and communicating in the space of negative self talk. It don't matter if your shoulders are back, real recognize real.
Hmm.
However, in the technical space of owning a room, of course you want to take up space. You don't have to be afraid to move, you don't have to be afraid to use your hands, you don't have to be afraid to say I'm going to position myself like this versus
Right.
I'm going to position myself like this. It is an extension of your expression, and if you've sat in the self reflection, then your self expression becomes that much more impactful and effective, and that then carries into how you use your body in the space of self-expression. So I could just say I'm going to give you some tips
Hmm.
to power pose your way through things, to make sure you have your shoulders back, but you're going to have your head held high if you honor your conviction, your calling, and your purpose. So that just becomes a byproduct.
How does, and maybe this is, outside of your purview, but how do you get in alignment? The stuff that's on the inside matching the stuff on the outside. How do you get rid of the negative self-talk, the low self-esteem when you are wanting to show up fully in a room?
So, negative self talk, those little conversations and those little whispers that,
Yes.
tell us that we nervous and we struggling. I'm not quite there. I don't think that
Yes.
that goes completely away, but it doesn't direct your path, and it doesn't deter you in the moments that matter most.
Hmm.
They don't distract you in the moments that matter most. They always going to show up because we human. And I would presume I'm talking to some overachievers, some high achievers, and you're
Absolutely.
always going to hear that voice because we're constantly wanting to be better and do better. But in the space of alignment, it is work, meaning you have to show up every single day, giving yourself attention. I have this thing called PMRJ: prayer, meditation, reading, and journaling. And then I just added a V because I always do the
Hmm.
peace sign, but and for me that is visioning. And so I spend my Mondays. Last year, actually, I've done PMRJV for a very long time, but last year I started putting myself on a schedule so that I can maintain consistency. And on Mondays, I fast. I have my last meal on Sunday evenings, and then I don't break my fast until Monday evenings. And I drink water, maybe some tea, and I spend Mondays dedicated to PMRJV. And so I'm either going to pray, I'm going to meditate, I'm going to be reading something, I'm going to be journaling, visioning, because that's where alignment finds itself. That's where you start to truly understand the nuances of who you are and who you desire becoming. That's where you start to trim the fat, so to speak, as to who you are and who you're not no mo.
Not no mo.
No mo. That ain't me no mo. That ain't me no mo.
Yeah.
Right. Alignment is releasing things that don't serve you anymore. Alignment is recognizing what you do, and how you say things that don't represent the version of yourself that you're becoming. Alignment is sitting in reflection and saying, this is the type of person I desire to be. And reflection allows you to say, well, how much of that person actually exists today? And if it doesn't, then I better come up with a plan to start being it.
Yes.
So alignment is anchored in self-reflection. It's anchored in quiet time, the meditation, so that you can hear yourself. It's anchored in prayer, because you might need your guidance. You might need your direction. You might need instructions. It's anchored in journaling, writing it down. Erykah Badu says something when it's also proven scientifically somewhere. Now, I don't know where the science at, but I know it is. You know, when you write things down, they're more likely to come into fruition. So the journaling and the visioning is really about, you know, as adults, we lose our creativity and we lose
And our imagination.
So how can we reinvent ourselves when we don't imagine about the different versions of ourselves? And that's what visioning is about. So when you mention alignment, that's how you anchor into a practice. Now, that's just my practice. It ain't got to be your practice, but you got to think about, how do I assess myself consistently enough that I can start to feel when I'm off and when I'm on?
What separates a speaker that commands a room versus a speaker that just delivers information?
It's the heart, it's the conviction, it's the calling, it's your deep belief. I don't move into the space of performance. Now, I'm dramatic, okay? I will give you a little extra razzle dazzle when the time calls. You know, like there's the strategy and the tactics of being an effective storyteller that require you to be a bit more theatric.
Yes.
Right. But when I say performative, it just means like you're just going through the motions. Like when you go to your performance reviews, they're checking these metrics. Did you have your body language together? Check. Did you hit all your key talking points? Check. Did you work the stage? Check. Did you engage with the audience?
Oh,
check.
wow.
And you could do all of that stuff, but that's still performative.
Yes.
That's just like, I'm trying to perform versus, am I truly present? Am I here with the people that I'm in there with?
Are they here with me?
And are they here with me? Right?
Yes.
I could say all the right things. I could do all of the right things. But if we're not here, then it doesn't matter. So the difference between speakers who do well and who do great is, are they performing? And that's just it.
What about pacing and breathing? Does that play a part in being confident on stage and in a room?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And when you're performing in the space of just kind of going through those metrics, pausing, pacing, breathing, too, can also be performative. Wow. People talk about the power of the pause, but you can't always fake it. Does the pause make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Is it real?
Right.
Or are you just putting the pause there because they said there's power in your pause? I'm taking an improv class right now,
Fun.
returning, yeah, returning back to my roots as an actress. But, um, like we're having to learn to listen to our scene partners. And what I've noticed is we're so worried about trying to figure out how to tell the story that I hadn't even really paid attention. These people be saying some off the wall crazy type stuff, right? And sometimes I'm like, yeah, but when in actuality, I just need to be like, wait, did you just say what you said? You
Right.
said, like, dude, you're crazy. That's a real pause.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just saying, I got to give the pause because there's power in it. So when you think about pausing, when you think about pacing, when you think about tonality, all of that are great factors, and it plays a part into how your message is received. But those technical aspects do not replace real presence, real listening. Like I'm actually here with it in the moment, connecting my emotions with what I'm actually saying. Because if
Yes.
I'm connecting my emotions, how I felt about it, how
Mm-hmm.
I feel about it, with what I'm actually saying, I'm not going to have to direct pausing or pacing. It's going to come because it's motivated, it's naturally motivated.
Yes.
But for those of you who are preparing for something, because
Mm-hmm.
it with where there is practice, even I just did a TED talk, like thank
Congratulations.
you. I had to memorize that thing. And
How
it's
long was it?
10 minutes. Well, it probably came out to about 12 minutes
Okay.
because when I'm talking to people, that's where the pauses came. When I
Mm-hmm.
was reciting it and practicing in my head and even delivering it kind of out loud, it was 9 minutes and 30 seconds or 10 minutes. But then as soon as I get in front of a group of people, it
Mm-hmm.
turns into 11 minutes.
Yes.
Why? Because the pausing makes sense. The silence makes sense. I speed up when,
Right.
so I learned that. And when I delivered it, I knew that I had to slow down. So I'm like, Shahara, slow down. But that's because I wasn't talking to nobody. And then once I started
Right.
talking to people, I slowed down. But for people who still are talking super duper fast, and
Mm-hmm.
then your issue is speeding through because you talk quickly, then yes, you might have to give yourself a technical direction and say, slow down and breathe until you find more comfort with what you're saying.
Mm. What about nerves? When nerves show up, maybe mid presentation, or you've walked into a space and all of a sudden the nerves are just everywhere. How do you
Mm,
handle that?
nerves don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. So release yourself from the shackles of feeling like if I'm nervous, then I'm not doing it right.
Okay.
Or if I'm nervous, then I am moving in the wrong direction. That's not the case. I was nervous for like 7 to 10 days before I stepped onto that TED stage. And what I learned is I was like, I'm feeling anxiety. That's what I was saying at first. And then I was like, that don't feel good. I don't want to accept that ain't my truth, is what I said. And so I said, well, what else am I feeling? And I said, I'm feeling nervous. And I was like, yeah, it's nervous. And then I was like, oh, anticipation is
Mhm.
a way to reframe nerves. We might be nervous, but I say reframe it and say you're anticipating a moment that matters. And so that anticipation might get you like revved up, and you'll feel it in your body and you'll feel it in your mind. It manifests both physically and emotionally. But I like to look at it as anticipation, and it doesn't go anywhere. The
Mhm.
key thing to minimizing that nervous energy, that anticipation, and for some, even that anxiety
Mhm.
that might deter you is to just remind yourself that you're talking to people.
Right.
Let me just make it plain to these folks.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a number of other like strategies, one, just the familiarity with your content. If you're doing a podcast and don't over prepare, but trust yourself, but
Right.
be familiar, right? If you're delivering something that is scripted in the more formal type of way, then share it with people, not just to the mirror, because the mirror ain't, you scaring yourself looking at the mirror because you
Mm-hmm.
scared, like how you gonna say I'm gonna try to get more comfortable with delivering this and I'm just gonna deliver it to the mirror. That means I'm delivering it to myself, a scared person. Deliver it to people. Like get one or two people and say, hey, even if it's just a meeting,
Mm-hmm.
you're leading a meeting, or you're asked to speak at a meeting, it's coming up tomorrow, you got to deliver a report or a brief out or something like that. You have somebody, one of your coworkers or somebody, just say, hey, jump on a Zoom call with me just so I can talk it out. This is where I'm going with it. Talking it out, it gets you even more familiar. So those are a number of different strategies and tactics when you're dealing with nerves. But I think more than anything, the nerves aren't going to go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't mean that you're doing anything wrong. To reframe those nerves as anticipation, because you're showing up in a moment that truly matters.
Mm-hmm. Now, I have heard, I'm sure you have, and I'm sure my community has, like if you're nervous when you're speaking or something like that, imagine the people in the room naked, or imagine them like in their underwear, and that's supposed to diminish the nerves. Have you heard this saying?
I've heard the same, but I don't even know where it came from.
I don't know
Which
where it came from either.
I don't know. The girl, it's an old saying. I think it's an old,
Yes,
old practice. I don't know who said it. I ain't never gave that advice. So
I haven't either, but I
I,
figured I'd
I
ask the
can,
expert.
I would get distracted. I mean, I'm a grown woman. Okay, I can imagine people naked.
Hmm.
I've seen enough naked bodies to know that I can tell by your dimensions what your naked body looks like. I don't need that distraction.
Yeah,
Why would
yeah.
we do that? I think more than anything is, instead of imagining them naked,
Hmm.
see them as people.
Mm.
Just see them as people. There's a
Yes.
person there, there's a mother there, there's a sister there, there's a wife there, there's a husband there. That might be my cousin over there. That might be my best friend over there.
Yes.
Like that's Jim. I know Jim. Why am I nervous now? I talk to Jim every
Mhm.
day, right? See the people as people.
Right, right. Okay, so how can self-trust change the way we speak and listen?
Hmm. I think trust is can become the antidote to negative self-talk.
Okay.
Um, the reason why we utter things about ourselves. Ooh, I don't know if I'm ready. Oh my goodness, I didn't have enough time. Ooh, I don't know how this is going to resonate. Oh my goodness, what are they going to say? Am I going to come in there with enough authority? Am I going to remember all of the things? Am I going to deliver them in the way that I'm supposed to? Girl, trust yourself. Trust yourself. Just trust yourself. And even if you mess up, that doesn't mean that you're messed up. And I think that there's a level of wanting to get it right. There's a level of wanting to nail it that creates this self pressure that we don't really need.
Hmm.
Um, and we have to balance that with trust. And I think trust is a subtle, silent knowing that I'm not going to let myself down. If we trust someone else, what does that mean? You trust your mom. You trust your mom to be there for you. Trust
Hmm.
yourself. I trust myself to be there for myself. I trust Jim. I don't know why I keep using Jim as the example, but I trust Jim. Jim's very knowledgeable. If you
Hmm.
can trust Jim because Jim is knowledgeable, then why can't you trust yourself when you're knowledgeable?
That's true. That's true.
So trust yourself, and I'm trying to make trust not feel empty. I'm
Hmm.
trying not for trust just to be a word. If I trust that Crystal is consistent with her podcast and she is gonna get a guest, okay, and she is
Hmm.
gonna get a good one,
Yes.
then why can't I trust that the things that I do, secure speaking engagements, stand up on stage in front of thousands, especially when I've done it before.
Right. Right.
Especially when I've done it. You've done this before, people. You know, so trust yourself. And I think that helps to mitigate the negative self-talk. Not to say it's going to eliminate it, but it reminds you, as the Queen Mother Angela Bassett said in Black Panther, remember who you are. And I think that trust is about remembering who you are.
What about connection? Is connection more powerful than persuasion? Why or why not?
Mm, I think they work together, depending on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to get buy-in, if you're looking to get someone to say yes, where persuasion is needed, you do need connection. Especially in this day and age, people make decisions based off of relationship and trust. So I believe that where there is a connection between you and another person, or where there is connection between you and your audience, there's also a certain level of trust that's there.
Okay.
And that makes persuasion easier. And it's interesting, just in my own personal observation, as you bring this up to me, Crystal, I don't even hear people talk so much about persuasion as much as they do influence.
Oh, have the two words been intersected or combined?
Yeah, I feel like more people are wanting influence because I think influence requires connection. Persuasion is a little bit more like, this is not a definition. I ain't chat GPT on this, so but this is just what I feel. I think persuasion sometimes a little bit necessary when there isn't trust or there isn't a connection. And then your persuasion, I believe, leans more onto your logical decision making.
Okay.
Or when you're tactical about being able to push emotional pain points or pleasure points, right? So if I walk into a room and I don't know anyone and I haven't been able to build rapport, I haven't been able to build trust, that's when I might have to lean in more so into my persuasion skills. But the more long lasting, genuine type of persuasion that we're seeing more often and what's being asked of us more often is our ability to influence. And you have to build influence.
Yes.
You have
And that takes
to,
time.
and that takes time. But influence, I believe, holds longer lasting impact and benefits and how you connect and move people. Whereas persuasion might be something that's a little bit more short term, like you're at a conference and you met all these random new people and now y'all are trying to figure out where to go to lunch. You
Right.
might use a little bit more persuasion in that occasion than you would have to tap into your influence unless they already know you.
Right.
So it's an interesting thing.
Yes, yes. And as I ask that question and you were describing it, I really have not heard the word persuasion. I mean, I wrote it out as I was preparing for this interview, but just like in everyday conversation, even like on TV or podcasts, I'm not hearing that word. You're not hearing the word persuasion anymore.
So
So
what made you use it?
because I'm thinking of someone on stage, you're trying to persuade people to do something or buy something or be excited or new year new me. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the vein that I was thinking when I was preparing. But you're
Yeah.
right, a lot of people do not use that word, but I would have never thought to use the word influence in
Mm-hmm.
place of persuasion because of how I was thinking.
Yeah. No, that's true. I mean, I think persuasion is, again, kind of short term.
Hmm.
Influence, I think people want to carry, to be persuasive is a good skill to have, right? And I think that if anybody's sitting in a seat right now and you're like, huh, I haven't thought about persuasion in a long time.
Right.
Maybe you want to go back to the drawing board, listen to a couple podcasts about persuasion and the effectiveness of it. But long term, and
Hmm.
as I think influence is more so a tie to your character, to your integrity, to kind of like, your how you're perceived, right?
Hmm.
So, and you do have to build it. So I think that influence is a little bit more long term, and persuasion might be more situational.
How do you make the people in the room, the people that you're speaking to, feel seen and feel heard?
Going back to seeing people as people, um, when I was rehearsing for my TED Talk,
Hmm.
I put a couple of virtual rehearsals on my calendar, and I invited people from my community,
Okay.
amazing folks, like amazing speakers, facilitators, entrepreneurs, corporate baddies, all over. And one of the pieces of feedback that I got was, Shahar, I've seen you live and in person. And maybe it's just because it's virtual, because I feel like I'm not getting the same type of eye contact that I normally get. And I feel like your eye contact is the Shahara experience.
Hmm.
And then I started to reflect. And then when I started to think about, like, and then I had a couple of speaking opportunities, and I'm like, I use some deep eye contact. I'm trying to peer into your soul, right?
Hmm.
And I'm doing it genuinely. Like, I really want to see you. And I think that that is a way that I kind of help, or how I engage audiences, and how I help them be seen and heard. Now, for the TED Talk, I can't always get them to talk back to me and respond back to me. But my style of keynote, my style of speaking is, oh, we talking. You
Hmm.
know, we I'm gonna, if I ask you a question, I want a response, right?
Right.
So that's my level of engagement. And I think we all, in understanding our communication style and how we show up and how we make our presence be known, can have a number of different ways in which we help the audience feel seen and heard. Um, if there's names, call out a name. If there's a
Hmm.
question, actually wait for a response. And
Yeah.
sometimes it happens even after the talk. It's asking them, what resonated with you? It's sending them a DM on Slack. Hey, I didn't get a chance to, get your feedback, but I'd love to hear your perspective. Like, it extends beyond the stage. It extends beyond just the um, whatever the platform is, whether it's formal or informal.
Hmm.
It's forever be engaging, forever be interested. And that starts before, while, and after whatever that moment that you're expressing yourself is.
How do you speak with authority without overcompensating? I feel like so many people, when are trying to speak with the authority, they think it means speak louder or speak with more
Mhm.
bass, in your voice or in your presentation. But I feel like that just takes away from whatever you're talking about.
Some people, and people, you know who you are. Um, some people could. There's a physicality to showing up and owning a room.
Hmm.
There's a physicalness to it. Sound and volume is a part of that physicalness. You have to learn what your levels are.
Okay.
And if you're not a naturally loud person like me, I always say I just be yelling. So I'm surprised that I'm not yelling right now. It's probably because I'm in these nice corporate offices right now, right? I ain't trying to yell.
Yes.
But um, you have to learn your own levels.
Hmm.
And there's where you operate. Let's say that this is a 10 and this is a 1, right? And that's your volume.
Okay.
You've got to have your own one, and you've got to have your own 10. Your 10 might not be as loud as mine, but your 10 should not be the same as your 5.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that's the like the technical physicality, because volume is vibration and it does move through space. So when vibration moves through space, you move through the room. So if your voice and your vibration does not hit the back of the wall, you're not moving through that room. So this isn't so much about being loud, but
Mm-hmm.
where's your volume? And your 10 on volume might not be my 10 on volume, but you should not have a 1 and a 10 be the same. That gives you monotone and
Mm-hmm.
people tune out, right? And you can't have your 1 always be at your 10, because you're going to stress people out,
Right.
yelling at them the whole time, right? So, to your point about authority, volume is a part of that, but it's the ownership that aligns with authority. I know where my 1 is. I know where my 10 is.
Mm-hmm.
That, in a way, allows you to stand in a space of authority because you understand your voice, even to the minute detail of what my volume does in a room. But
Okay.
there's other pieces of these aspects of how we show up in a room, that when we take ownership of that full piece, that's what authority amounts to. So you see somebody who walks in the room and they have a lot of authority,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe their title, it may be because you heard about them and you know about the things that they've done, but their authority and what you feel, what I don't think that we always translate is it's the authority, the ownership that they have on all of the different elements that make them them. Their voice, their attire, even the ownership of their insecurities, the ownership of their doubts. They know about them.
Mm-hmm.
It ain't nothing that you gonna tell me about me that I ain't already explored,
Right.
right? Now, if you're somebody that I trust, you'll be able to see things in me that I haven't seen yet. But once you reveal it to me, I know, right? So authority is about taking ownership of these different elements that make us who we are. And when you recognize these things of yourselves and you take ownership of it, then it goes back to that space of trust. Trust it. If I trust Jim to be knowledgeable, I need to trust that I'm knowledgeable too, because I done been through this. I ain't new to this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm true to this. So when
Yes.
you say I ain't new to this, I'm true to this, that's authority.
That is. That is. Okay, we're getting ready to wrap up here. Are there some daily or maybe some weekly habits or tips that you can give to people as they get ready to speak on stage, as they get ready to walk into a room and own that room? What are some things they can do to help with that?
I take a moment to think about this because I always like to assess and allow myself to consider new things.
Okay.
One, I would say, going back to that PMRJV, the prayer, the meditation, the reading, the journaling, the visioning,
Mm-hmm.
inner clarity leads to outer confidence. And I know at the end of the day, we all want to walk into spaces, whether they're formal or informal, and we want to feel confident. For some people, they're not even to the place where they want to own a room just yet. They're like, hold on, Shahara, I'm just trying to feel confident.
Right.
And the people who own a room, they still want to feel confident. So that inner clarity is what creates outer confidence. And ain't no faking it. So if you're not doing the inner work to be clear about what you want, what you don't want, what you want to say, how you want to say it, what you don't want to say, if you're not clear on even the things that scare you, intimidate you, bother you, irritate you, agitate you,
Mhm.
if you're not clear on what you stand 10 toes down on, like what are my values? What am I about? Who am I? Identity. If you're not clear on even the parts that you're still exploring, because it doesn't mean you need to know everything. Like my identity is evolving. I
Mhm.
am constantly evolving. And there's always going to be a space of that isn't certain. But I know that though, so that clarity, even if it's still evolving,
Mhm.
that is what leads to outer confidence. And when that clarity comes, the expression, whether it's in your body, whether it's in your pacing, whether it's in your word choice, whether it's in how you use humor, whether it's in your vulnerability, whether it's your shoulders are back, whether it's how you engage with people, that becomes the expression. That expression is tied to the depth of your reflection and clarity. So when you want to show up, you want to feel confident, you want to own a room, here's the tip: get familiar with yourself, create a practice so that you're aligned. So when you have to go out in front of other people and they challenge your ideas or they don't respond to them, you ain't shook. I'll leave it at that.
What is one mistake, and I'm sure there's probably more than one, but what is one mistake that communicators, that people are making, and maybe they don't realize they're making this mistake?
Hmm. Yeah. It's a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a mistake that we make over and over and over again. And because it's a mistake that we make over and over again, it also means that it's an opportunity. And that mistake is, how should I say this? That mistake is thinking that who you are and how you show up doesn't matter.
Mm.
Like, there's a power in truly just letting yourself out a little bit. Like we filter ourselves, we button ourselves up, we evolve and tailor depending on the audience and where we're at. Like how I'm gonna show up on Sunday fun day with my girlfriends is very different than how I'm gonna show up in these four walls. Okay,
Right.
these four walls, they're not gonna get everything, but that doesn't mean that they're not gonna know when the conversation presents itself. They'll know that Cash Money Records taking over for the 99 and the 2000 is my
And they
favorite
gonna know what
song.
to do when they hear that beat drop.
But they'll know. It,
Yes.
it might when we're at happy hour, Jim. Don't be surprised. Don't be surprised that when you see me run into the dance floor and I hit that
That part.
corporate drop. I
That part.
created a dance move called the corporate drop just so that I can drop it like it's hot in these corporate environments,
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
So that how do I let the aspects and the realness of me spill out? Does it spill out all the time everywhere? No. But don't be afraid to let aspects of yourself spill out. That's where genuine connection exists. In my bio, I have I'm the world leading subject matter expert on the cult classic Coming to America.
Hmm.
I let that spill out. There's some jokes that I told yesterday, and one of my clients said, "I don't know if that's going to resonate with everybody. It ain't supposed to." So I let myself spill out. So when they gave me that note, I said, "Sure thing." But I'm gonna tell that joke again because I know somebody in the room who typically isn't always seen or heard will finally be seen or heard. So I'm gonna tell that joke,
Yes.
and it doesn't matter if everybody else doesn't get it. That's me allowing myself to spill out.
Hmm.
You know, it's like watering plants. And we got all these different plants that we got to water in life. And they all get, some need more water, some need a full drench, other ones just need a little bit. So the mistake is we take our water and we want to give the same amount of water to all of these different spaces, when in actuality, some of those plants we can spill out more.
Mhm.
Some of those plants can afford a little bit of more of our spill. And so there's an opportunity that we're presented with now moving forward that I can let myself spill out just a little bit more. Don't make the mistake of feeling like you can't spill out a little bit. Allow more of yourself to show up. And even if you do allow yourself more to show up, yes, there are consequences, but it's consequences to you not spilling as well. So go ahead and spill and see what's up.
Yes, yes. Pick your consequence if you can.
Mm-hmm.
Your consequence if you can. My final
Mm-hmm.
question for you, what is your space of coaching and teaching people how to fully and authentically show up?
What was the
What's your
first part of,
goal?
oh, what's
What is
my
your
goal?
goal?
Oh,
What's
my
your
goal.
intention in this space?
I'm gonna make it plain. Look, I want to build a body of work and I want my work to become more well known because I want to position myself to host the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Not
Yes.
with this current administration. And they asked me, I'd be like, nah, I'm straight. But over the course of the next few years, as we see how the pendulum shifts,
Yes.
like I'm trying to host the White House
You
Correspondents'
heard it
Dinner.
here first.
You know what I'm saying? Like, what was it? The Golden Globes that just passed? Let
Mhm.
me host the Golden Globes. I didn't know who that girl was who
Me
hosts the
neither.
Golden Globes. A
I
lot
mean,
of
I
people
don't
don't.
watch award shows anymore, but I didn't know who
Yeah,
she was either.
I saw a commercial and I didn't know who she was. Now there's probably, I'd be curious as to all of the celebrities and the people in the entertainment industry that went to the Golden Globes. I'm sure half of the room didn't know who she was,
Mhm.
but she was known enough to be at that position.
Right.
Right. And so my goal is to build a body of work that has great enough impact that it spreads so that I'm known well enough to to receive, to be approached, to be aligned with opportunities like hosting the Golden Globes or the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Like that's what this is. And so I show up daily in the space of coaching, in the space of facilitating, in the space of keynote speaking, in the space of, emceeing
Mhm.
and pouring out these messages that I'm sharing with you so that they spread, so that they resonate at a scale large enough so that I can align with opportunities like the Golden Globes.
Yes, yes. And we want that for you too. We want that for you. That would be amazing. That is going to be amazing. Let me rephrase
Amen.
that. That is going to be amazing. Thank you so much for being on this podcast. You have been amazing on this podcast. And I appreciate you so much.
And thank you so much for the invitation. Thank you for your consistency, your follow through, and just the voices that you give platforms to. And I am so grateful that we were introduced.
Yes.
And I know I got at least 3 people that I want to make sure that I facilitate some introductions to. I want to continue to grow your platform, to put quality thinkers and speakers here
Yes.
so
Thank
that the
you.
value is exponential when people press play on you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I receive that. I absolutely receive that.
Yes, ma'am.
Clock it, clock it. Spilling out just a little bit. Spilling out
Let
just
it
a little
spill.
bit.
Let it spill.
Little bit. To my community, thank you so much for tuning in and watching. You can get Sherhara's podcast and all of my other podcasts on YouTube Podcasts and Apple Podcasts. And remember, you always have time to listen and learn on the go.